bim, bam, bim, biddy, bum, bim, biddy, bim, bim, bam, biddy, 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 bim, bam, bim, biddy, bum, bim, biddy, bim, bim, bam. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We are delighted to have you with us. My name is Barry Nicholsberg. I am the cantorial soloist here at Temple Beth David in Metro Atlanta, and we are delighted to have you with us. Rabbi Jesse is on vacation this week, and so he has asked if I could fill in at least the cantorial parts. I will try. And I have a few other things that I would like to share with you. For instance, today is the first of a new month, the month of Adar. It is the first of Adar, the year 5781. This is known, the first of every month in the Hebrew calendar is Rosh Chodesh. And we have a blessing for Rosh Chodesh, which I know you've heard in Hebrew any number of times. I don't know if you've ever heard it in English. And so I'm going to read it to you, this time in English. May the month of Adar be a month of blessings. Blessings of goodness, blessings of joy, peace and kindness, friendship and love, creativity, strength, serenity, fulfilling work and dignity, satisfaction, success and sustenance, physical health, and listen to this word, radiance. May truth and justice guide our acts and compassion, temper our lives that we may blossom as we age and become our sweetest selves. May it be so. What a beautiful blessing. It's just remarkable that we are praying that this month, like any month, like every month, will not just bring us joy and peace and friendship and love, that it will provide us with radiance. I love that. It just happens to be on the first of Adar that we will not only have our regular Devar tonight for the Torah portion, but this is a special night because we also celebrate Shekalim. Shekalim comes from the word shekel. It seems that when the temple was standing on or about the first of Adar, the high priests had a half shekel requirement for every Hebrew. And they would pay this half shekel, and the money raised would go not only to the salaries of the priests, but also to the upkeep of the temple. And so I ask you this evening, though I am loath to ask anyone for money, I'm going to make an exception and ask that you keep this tradition. And please go to our website, tbdga.org/donation, and give what you can tonight, as much in the spirit of the first of Adar and Shekalim as anything else. We certainly will appreciate it. On that note, I would like to ask our president, Judy Kern, to come forward and light the Shabbat candles, and we will get started with this evening's service. Judy, thank you for joining us.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our own lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. With that, I would ask you all to please turn to page 138 in the Mishkan Tefillah as we welcome the Sabbath bride. Now, we will be doing verses 1, 2, and then 5 and 9. And on the 9th verse, as we get to the final words, Bo'ichala, we will bow to the Sabbath bride. That's what we're doing as we welcome her into our lives on this wonderful Shabbat evening. Lecha Dodi. La 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 lecha Dodi. La 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 likrat kala. La 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 penei Shabbat. Shabbat mekabela Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Ishmianu el hamnuchot Adonai echad Tiferet veleti la 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 lecha Dodi la 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 likrat kala la 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 penei Shabbat penei Shabbat mekabel La 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 lecha Dodi La 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 likrat kala La 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 penei Shabbat penei Shabbat mekabela. Let's get ready to bow. Boi v'shalom ateret kala Gam besimcha Ritzola Tochem Unei Am Sigula. This is it, right here. Bo'ichala Bo'ichala la 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 lecha Dodi La 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 likrat kala La 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 penei Shabbat penei Shabbat penei Shabbat penei Shabbat I would like now to introduce and thank Bobby Horowitz, our Vice President, and guitarist Frank Monteleone, also on guitar. Denise Whitlock is this evening's streaming specialist, and Judy Kern, our President, is also a streaming specialist and is here with us. We're the only ones in this building, and we've been the only ones here since about March. So we're right at about 11 months. And I'm telling you right now, we can't wait for you folks to come back. But I will also tell you this, because we've now expanded our congregation to people all over the United States, practically all 50 states at this point. Someone is tuned in to say hello and watch what we're doing. When we come back and we have congregants back in the pews, which we hope will be soon, we're going to continue to stream our services. So those of you in Vermont, and those of you in California, and those of you in Alaska and Hawaii and wherever else you are, we hope you will continue to enjoy these services and find some soul enrichment from it. With that, I'm going to ask Bobby Horowitz to lead us in the Reader's Kaddish. That will be found on page 144.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'hamad yivarach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chai d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'gala ba'gala u'v'zman kariv v'imiru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach La'alam u'la'almei Almaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitbar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei D'Kudashah B'richu Le'elamin kol v'chata v'shirata tushbichata v'nechemata damiran b'alma v'imru Amen.
I would now invite you to turn to page 146 and rise for the call to worship, the Baruch Hu. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch et Adonai hamivorach. Adonai hamivorach, hamivorach leolam va'ed hamivorach. Hamivorach le'olam va'ed. Would you please remain standing and turn to page let's see, I know it's here somewhere, page 152. And stay standing for the Shema, please. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Shem Kipo Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shem Kipo Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Please be seated. And before I chant the V'ahavta, I would like to remind you or ask you if you have any comments this evening or anyone you would like to be remembered, please use the chat function and let us hear from you. If you're from somewhere other than the metro Atlanta area, we'd love to know where you're watching from this evening. With that, if you will please turn to page 154 for the V'ahavta. This is chanted as it has been chanted for thousands of years using the same melody called a trope, which is found only in the Torah. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol mi'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibahata bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'leftecha v'derech u'v'shovtecha u'v'kumecha u'kshatam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot ben einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'hisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאיכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. If you would, please turn to page 158, the bottom half, and read with me. Who is like you, O God, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? Your children witnessed your sovereignty, the sea splitting before Moses and Miriam. This is our God, they cried. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Keep all those words in mind because they will come back in great part this evening when we talk about the Devar, that parsha, the part of the Torah that we will be reading this week. Would you please turn to page 158 and join us in singing Mi Chamocha. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la la, ya la 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 la. kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, Torah tehilot oseh veleh, Torah tehilot oseh veleh. Malechutecha hara'u avanecha, rokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze Eliyanu v'yamru, ze Eliyanu v'yamru. Adonai Yilo le'olam va'ed, Adonai Yilo le'olam va'ed. Kamocha ba'elim Adonai, kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, Torah tehilot oseh veleh, Torah tehilot oseh veleh. Thanks for joining us on that. Next, we're going to sing my absolute favorite lullaby. This is a wonderful lullaby that is sung, well, it's been sung for decades. And we're going to do the first part of it in Hebrew. We will do the second part of it in English, and I will also interpret it into American Sign Language.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom, Shalom, V'hamidenu Malkeinu L'chaim, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha.
Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, until we wake with morning's light. Teach us our wrong from right. Amen. Thanks for joining in that. It really is a beautiful lullaby. Keep us safe throughout the night till we wake with morning's light. What could be a sweeter thing to say to someone as he or she is getting to sleep? With that, we're going to sing a song now. It's called Yismechu. And it's a song that truly, it's impossible to sing this song and not smile. It just can't be done. I don't encourage you to try. I encourage you to smile and sing along. With that, if you'll turn to page 162, Bobby and Frank, when you're ready, so am I. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'kolei, onei Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'kolei, onei Shabbat. Mekadeshei, Mekadeshei Shevi Shabbat, Kulam Yisbe'o, V'yit'anu mitu b'cha Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'Torah.
Onek Shabbat. Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'Torah. Onek Shabbat.
Washri Ratzita bo v'kidash Shabbat. Chemtad Yamim Oto Karata Shabbat. B'malechutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'Torah.
Onek Shabbat.
B'malechutecha
Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'Torah. Onek Shabbat.
Lecher Lemase v'reishi Shabbat. Zecher Lemase v'reishi Shabbat. Ismechu b'malechutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'Torah.
Onek Shabbat.
Ismechu b'malechutecha
Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'Torah. Onek Shabbat.
See, I told you it was impossible to sing that without smiling. Okay, if you would please turn to page 164. We're going to chant and sing the tefillah. It is the standing prayer. You're welcome to stand spiritually, physically, whatever makes you comfortable. But we would ask you please to join us as you can. Hanananananana Adonai. Hananananana Satai Tiftach. Hananananana Hofiagi. Hofiagi Tahilatecha. Hananananana Adonai. Hananananana Satai Tiftach. Hananananana Hofiagi. Hofiagi Tahilatecha. Hananananana Adonai. Hananananana Satai Tiftach. Hananananana Hofiagi. Hofiagi Tahilatecha. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'megula livnei b'neihem, l'ma'an shemo b'yahava, melech ozer u'mashiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham, v'yetzrat Sarah. Page 168. Atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye hakal atarav le'oshiha, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somef noflim verofeh cholim, Umatir asorim, Kayem emunato lishenei afar michamocha bal gevurot umido melech melech memid umechaye umatzmi amichua, v'ne'emanat alecha yod ha'akol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye ha'akol. Ata kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha, Selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh. Please be seated. Now, through the magic of the internet, one of our members this evening, Bob Green, is going to read to us, "Grant us peace."
Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. Make contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'arech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate that very, very much. Would you please join us for just a moment of silence? Think about the week that has been. But don't think about the week that's yet to come. Revel in Shabbat. Surround yourself with the love of Shabbat. Please join us as you can in singing Etz Chaim Hi, the tree of life.
Etz Chaim Hi, v'machazikim bach, v'tovechei ve'ushar deracheha da'einoa v'chol netivoteha shalom. Ashiveinu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh yameinu kekedem. Etz Chaim Hi, v'machazikim bach, v'tomecheha me'ushar deracheha da'einoam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Ashiveinu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh yameinu kekedem.
I know I've said it before, gentlemen, but I'm going to say it again. If I die first, I want you to sing that at the funeral, please. With that, I'm going to ask you please to turn to page 371. We're now going to remember those who are ill, who need a prayer to help them. The prayer is the Mishaberach. If you have people who you would like to be remembered because they are suffering physically or mentally or spiritually, please type their names into the chat function, and Judy Kern, our beloved president, will read those names aloud.
Linda Ehrensaft, Marcy Schulman, Nina Schulman, Joe Wagner, Sherry Silver, Deborah Lee Wright, Jennifer Nix, Don Copsey, Jesse Morton, Andrew St. Clair, Don Sinclair, Sam Namer, Haley Silverman, Lainey Roan, Evan Manishin, Larry Manishin, Corey and Sean Worsner, Steve Gillitz, Max Gillitz, Stacy Bernard Roth, Robert Whitlock, Barbara Whitlock, Terry Hurst, Mickey Toll, Lisa Miller, Tanya Hurst, Karen Fulbright, Sandy Tejan, David Yarborough, Ann Tepper, Laura Friedman, Irma Schiller, Don Sinclair.
Bobby?
Carolina Horowitz, Susie Horowitz, Melissa Horowitz, David Horowitz, Angela Burdett, Andrew Wheeler, Edwin Speck.
It's impressive, Bobby. You did that from memory. If I have two names, I can't remember them anymore. I have to write them down. Frank. Judy, you have other names.
Patty Bierman, Roxana Gomez, Gary Axe, Dee Axe, Morris and Felice Friedman, Sarah Gambrell, Danielle Strumer, Irma Schiller, Ann Tepper, Katie Walmer, Laura Friedman, Shelley Perkle, Morris and Felice Friedman, Rachel Duff, Peter Yarrow, all those suffering from COVID-19.
I'm going to try and read only names that were not mentioned just now. Joanne Stein, Julia Hampton, Kevin Middleton, Brenda Gibson, Mickey D'Amato, Anya Polara, Ben DeSalvo, Leslie Karsten, Megumi Allen, and all those affected by COVID-19. And the latest numbers, folks, are that 27,477,000 Americans have been infected with this particular virus. Now, while that number is overwhelming and truly unimaginable, it's also a good number, because for weeks on end, the numbers were going up every week, incrementally. Recently, we had 1.4 million people who were diagnosed with COVID in 1 week in America. This past week, the number is 700,000. We've actually been able, somehow, through the miracle of these vaccines and through mask wearing and diligence, we've now cut the number of infections in half. Judy?
Sadler.
I'm sorry?
Dennis Sadler.
Thank you. With that, I would ask you please to join us in the Mishaberach. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing, laying on the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Gentlemen, thank you. Okay, it's time to look at this week's Torah portion. If you were here for the first few minutes of our service, you heard me say that there's a second part of this devar, this week's portion of the service, because it is the first of Adar. It is the first of the month of Adar, 5781. And so on this particular day, and a few others throughout the year, we read the Haftorah, which is from Kings 11:17 through 12:17. And this is where we are told that Hebrews weren't really asked if they would give a half shekel. They were pretty much required to give a half shekel, whether they were very wealthy or they were not. A half shekel, and they would give it to the temple. This is when the Grand Temple stood. And that money paid for the priests. It paid for the upkeep of the temple. And so we ask you this evening, please maintain that tradition. Go to our website, tbdga.org/donation, and please keep the tradition of shekalim, maybe more than a half shekel, alive in spirit and in reality. The parsha this evening is Mishpatim. This is a tough one. You may recall last week that it was Jethro, and Jethro was Moses' father-in-law who told Moses that he just couldn't do everything himself and he really needed to delegate. Well, in this week's Parsha, we learn that the children of Israel heard God's voice and they were frightened beyond their imaginations. That's kind of where the last week's Parsha pretty much left off. Now, here's a problem. We already know how this story ended. It wasn't very pretty. It's hard to imagine people who were enslaved for 240 years suddenly having freedom and coming essentially face to face with Hashem. It's hard to imagine. But God said, you will have no other gods, period. It's not open for debate. It's not a question. His first commandment of the 613, the very first one, thou shalt have no other gods before me. So how is it that they were so frightened by the sound of God's voice and having witnessed what he was able to do in splitting the seas so that they could move across the Red Sea to freedom? And when they were finally on the other side, as the Egyptians followed them, they were swallowed up by the waters. They saw the act of God. There was no question what they saw. They heard his voice. They were there at Mount Sinai. And yet they were so frightened by his voice, they said, Moses, please, please, listen to God and tell us what he says. But we can't take this anymore. We're going to die of fright. And God told Moses, okay, come up the mountain and I will give you the tablets and I will give you the rest of my commandments. And so Moses went up Mount Sinai. Apparently, the children of Israel were not prepared to wait 40 days and 40 nights. They got antsy. Hard to imagine. They started to disbelieve. How could you disbelieve after what you've just witnessed in 40 days? I don't think I could do that in 40 years, 40 centuries. But in 40 days, they decided, Actually, it was long before the 40 days, because they then collected all the gold they could and built a golden calf. Now, God, of course, could see what was going on. And he suggested to Moses, you get back down there right now. And of course he did. That act of disbelief is one that stays with humans all the time. If we get good news, sometimes we find it hard to believe. If we get really bad news, we try and not believe it. Can't be true. How could that possibly have happened? Our faith drives us. Our faith actually all but requires us to debate, including with God. But I'd like to, for a moment, read to you just a few of the 613 commandments you may not know. But when Moses finally descended from the mountain for the second time, he gave the children of Israel all the commandments as God had given to him. Just for openers, anyone who murders intentionally shall be put to death. But if the murder if it occurs without intention, there is a place for the murderer to flee. I like this one. Honor your parents. We get that. But there's a second half to that sentence. And do not strike them. I'm not sure that this physically meant strike parents. It may have been a spiritual, psychological strike. When there is a quarrel, here's the word strike again, and one strikes another, the one who strikes shall go unpunished, except he must pay for the sufferer's cure. It goes on and on. When someone strikes a slave with a rod and he dies, the striker must be punished. This is where I'm going to read something that I know you've heard many times. This is where it comes from. If two men fight and a pregnant woman is hit and miscarries, the husband shall fine the one responsible. But if the pregnant woman dies, then you must compensate, and this is where it will sound familiar, a life for a life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, and bruise for bruise. There has to be a reason that God was so strict. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand. Eye for eye leaves everyone blind. The person who starts a fire must pay for the property lost by the fire. there are children watching, cover your ears. If a man seduces an unmarried, sexually untouched woman, this is one of the commandments, then he must take her for his wife. If her father refuses to give her to him, he must still pay fair rate for the untouched bride. It's not often, but I am left speechless. Here's when I wish that Rabbi Jesse were right here, because we could have a great discussion about this. And Rabbi Jesse, I imagine that you and Rebbetzin Shira are watching right now. And if you are, I don't ask for your help, but I sure do need it. Because I'm struggling to understand how a compassionate and all-loving Hashem could say such things. Whoever sacrifices to a god other than the Lord alone shall be utterly destroyed. Listen to the words, not killed, not die, shall be utterly destroyed. And yet, they made that golden calf. And what was their punishment for it? They wandered 40 years in the desert until everyone who helped build that calf was dead before they crossed into the promised land. Here's another. You must not utter any falsehoods, no lies, nor follow others to evil. And then it ends this way, and I find this so odd. Neither shall you favor a poor man. What does that mean? These go on and on. You shall accept no bribes. This is from God. For bribery blinds the clear-sighted and turns the words of the righteous into lies. You know this one already. For 6 years you shall plant and reap the harvest, but on the 7th year you shall let it be for the poor and the animals to graze. And then, right then and there, God declares 3 new holidays: Passover, Sukkot, and Shavuot. It's hard to understand how God could be so demanding. We're seeing it in 2021 terms. And the only way I can work this in my mind, and I've been struggling with this all week, if we had been slaves for 240 years and we'd had our freedom for a couple of weeks, perhaps we would do the same. And perhaps we would need such stringent laws so that people understood there were consequences to actions, whether it was lying or killing someone. If you had a Hebrew slave for 6 years, that person was yours, but in the 7th year, you had to let that individual go free. I don't get it. I don't understand that whole thing. But these people were slaves themselves. It gives us a lot to think about. I know it's given me a great deal to think about. I want to take just a moment to thank Rabbi Jesse. He and Rebbetzin Shira have been on vacation now in Arizona. But he doesn't take vacation like most people do, because he's Zooming with us just about every day. He's got classes in Hebrew. He has a B'nai Mitzvah class. He has a Talmud class. He's got all kinds of classes. He hasn't missed one of them. Wednesday night, just 48 hours ago, our Talmud class I signed on, and here's the rabbi, and I can see the sky and clouds as he's walking and huffing and puffing, and he's got Raina on his back, and he's walking along, and he's telling us about the Talmud page for that day in great detail while he's walking along. In other words, he really can do two things at once. Judy.
I have an answer from Rabbi Jesse and Shira,
So pleased.
but you're not going to get it right now. They said they would address it tomorrow morning during services.
Well, then you'll just have to come back and hear it. We'll be live at 11 a.m. tomorrow. On that note, let me say Shabbat Shalom. Thank the Rabbi and Rebbitzin for all that they are doing for Temple Beth David. And we are delighted that they will, even from Arizona, be leading tomorrow morning's service. Shabbat Shalom. Would you please turn to page 586 and rise for the Aleinu? And you may note that something looks a bit different here. You may not. But since the synagogue was built, the Torah's always leaned back. Now they're upright. It's a small adjustment, but I really like the way they look. Aleinu, page 586. Please join us. Or you'll need to rise either spiritually or physically. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ועושה הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושינת עוזו בגוהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אינו, אמת מלכנו אפת זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשיבותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת einod. Page 588. For you spread out the heavens and establish the earth. Your majestic abode is in the heavens above, and your mighty presence is in the loftiest heights. You are our God. There is none else. In truth, you are our sovereign without compare, as is written in your Torah. Know then this day and take it to heart that Adonai is surely God in the heavens above and on the earth below. There is none else. Page 591. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lamelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu Bayom ha'o yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo echad. Please be seated. It's now, mincha is a custom generally associated with a particular synagogue. It is our custom here that at this point in the service, before we remember those who have passed recently or in years past, we chant El Malei Rachamim, which is reserved as a chant, as a prayer, asking God to protect the souls of those who have died. We've done this since COVID. Usually this would only be chanted on Yom Kippur during the Yizkor service or at a funeral. But we do it every Friday night to remember the thousands and thousands and thousands, 485,000 Americans have actually died from COVID. We chant this for each and every one of them. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Baromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tacha Kanfei HaShekhinah Im Kedoshim Otihorim Kezohar Harakia Masirim Lenishmot Yakireino Shalchu le'olamam Bar harachamim harachamim Yasti rem besefte kinafav le'olamim Bitror hachayim et nishmatam Adonai hu nachalatam V'yanu b'shalom hamishkavam V'nomar Amen. I would invite you now, please, to turn to page 598 as we remember those who have passed either this past week, which would be the time period of Shiva, or Shloshim, the past 30 days, or within the past year, or at this time, this particular week in years past. Judy?
Noreen Gillitz.
Thank you. Noreen Gillitz. Is there anyone else who you would like to remember who has passed within the past 7 days, the period of Shiva? The past 30 days, the period of Shloshim? We remember those who have passed within the last year, who were part of our Temple Beth David family. Gary Peck, Helen Brudner, Pedro Martinez, Norman Freed, Mickey McKinney, Donald Woodruff, Martha Young, George Kirchhoff, Patrick Myers, Joanne Sexton, Maurice Goldstein, Dr. Jim Bartling, Bob Molnar, Vicki Morton, Ned Isaacs, Zelda Abbas, Richard Eggers, Joel Kellner, Daniel Jacob Horowitz, Emilia Gress, Elise Eagle, Marcia Manishin. And from years past, this week, we remember Philip Schiller, Iris Taussig, Rosemary Norris, Sharon Pearl, Louis Yarkus, Harold Dobrican, Ruth Pozick, Milton Schiller, David Johnson, and Rosie Bell Weiland. Is there anyone else you wish to add to this list? Please rise as a community of one to join those who are remembering and are in mourning as we recite the Reader's Kaddish, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach li'olam ul'almei almaya. Yitborach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shemed kudasha barichu le'elam kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata damiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba mi shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, uyaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and all Israel, and let us say, Amen. You are welcome to remain standing as we sing Hatikva, the hope. It is the national anthem for Israel. Please join us. Od balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homiya ufate mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia. Od lofta tikvatenu, hatikva bat shnat alpayim, liot am chofshi be'atzenu, Eretz Zion ve'Yerushalayim, liot am chofshi be'atzenu, Eretz Zion ve'Yerushalayim. It is time for announcements. For this, you may sit down. Judy, our president, please.
Well, I have to share, Bob did a little research for you, and currently the new Israeli shekel is worth 31 cents.
Well, I would certainly hope that people would give us more than 15 cents on shekel.
Anyway, that was just my little piece of
That was
minutia.
your 31 cents worth. I get it.
That's right. I want to thank you for designing, building, finishing, and everything else you did for those Torah stands. It looks amazing.
My pleasure. It was an honor.
Another reminder, tomorrow morning's service will be on Zoom. Check your email this week that went out. I think it went out at least twice for the Zoom link. And after services, Steve will host Shabbat Shmooze on Zoom. On Sunday, there's a sisterhood meeting at 12:30 on Zoom. The Social Action Committee is sponsoring a food drive. The barrel will be out on the porch, and we'll be collecting food through the Purim basket pickup on the 25th. And if you want to order a Purim basket, also check your email. All the information went out this week. Also check your email for classes and events, because as Barry said, RJ may be in Arizona, but he's still connected to us via Zoom.
And if you are watching but you are not a member of Temple Beth David, and you would like a Purim basket, you may order one anyway, and it can be shipped to you. So please go to our website and let us know. While I'm on that subject, we have 167 subscribers to our YouTube channel, which is about 100 more than we have of members. Judy is flagging me down again.
No, you're wrong. We have 171 subscribers.
Okay, so 171, far better and more amazing. So there are 171 people, but we don't have 171 members. If you are one of those who has yet to become a member, but let's say you live far off, you can still become an associate member. And we would welcome that, and we would love to welcome you into the Temple Beth David family. It means everything to us that you're here with us, whether you're a member or not. We hope that you will consider it. Go to our website, learn more about it, learn more about us, and get just a little bit closer. With that, Bobby, do you have anything else you'd like to say this evening? Frank, any final words? Before we close, I would like to thank Frank and Bobby and Judy and Denise again, and my thanks to each and every one of you for being with us this evening and for being such an important part of Temple Beth David. One last thing, Judy mentioned that I had made the stand. It was Bobby's vision. It wasn't mine. He came and asked me if I would do it, but he described it, and he should receive all that credit because all I did was build what he saw. With that, we're going to end with a priestly blessing. Yivarechecha. Please rise in body and or spirit.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May the Lord bless you and keep you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha.
May the Lord shed light upon you and be gracious unto you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May Adonai lift face and eyes and grant you peace.
V'yasem lecha shalom.
From Temple Beth David in Snellville, Georgia. Thank you for being with us. Shabbat Shalom.